Once upon a time, when there was magic everywhere, it was summer on the old farm. A glorious summer with lush green meadows in which the young calves and the white lambs played together. And the chickens had a feast in the cornfields. But down in the high reeds, which grew on the banks of the large duck pond, carefully hidden so that none of the other animals or birds would disturb her, a soon-to-be Mama Duck had built a nest. And there she sat upon 4 eggs.
Quack, quack, quack. Oh, I've been sitting here since the beginning of summer. What's taking the little one so long to hatch?
Just then she heard a sound from one of the eggs.
What? It's time. They're coming out of their shells. I wish their father were here. But as usual, he's off playing with those wild ducks from the river. Here come my babies. Oh, they're such pretty little ducklings. Come here and stay warm under my wing. That's it. Now let me make sure that you're all here. 1, 2, 3. 3. 3? But I've been sitting on 4 eggs.
And that's when Mama Duck discovered that one of the eggs hadn't hatched yet. It was the biggest egg of all, more than twice the size of the others. So, with a weary sigh,
Hey.
she settled down. The most regal and important and the oldest chicken on the farm came strolling through the reeds, her beak proudly in the air, but her sharp eyes keenly searching the ground for tasty tidbits. And by chance, she came upon Mama Duck.
Quack, quack, quack. Still here, my dear?
What? Only one more egg to hatch. Here, see?
Is that supposed to be a duck egg?
Why, I think so.
Well, I don't think it is.
You don't? What do you mean?
I think somebody's playing a joke on you. I think that egg was slipped into your nest when you weren't looking. Quack, 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 quack. I think it's a turkey egg.
A turkey egg? Oh, no.
Oh, yes. Well, if you want my advice, dear, when and if it hatches, take it to the pond for a swim. If it turns out to be a turkey, it won't want to get even its toes wet.
Mama Duck sat and sat and sat. Another week passed, and on Sunday there was a great thunderstorm. But Mama Duck stayed on top of the large egg until the storm had ended, and a beautiful rainbow filled the sky. And at that very moment, she heard a sound from inside the large egg.
At last, here it comes. Oh, it's so big. What is it?
Hello, Mama.
Well, at least he's called me Mama. But is he really a duckling? Mrs. Chickabiddy may be right. There's only one way to find out. Come, children. We'll all go for a little dip in the pond.
But, Mama, I'm so hungry. I'd rather eat than swim.
Later, my child. What am I saying? Is he my child or is he a turkey chick? Well, I'll find out right now. Here we are, children. In we go.
Mama Duck swam out into the water, and then she looked back to see all the little ducklings and the new big one as well, frolicking and splashing in the water, as all ducklings should.
He swims. He's a duckling like the rest. Or rather, not like the rest, but he's a duckling nevertheless, I think. Anyway, he must be mine, so I love him.
Mama, I'm hungry.
Then we'll go to the barnyard for some grain.
Quack, quack, quack.
Come along, children.
And so Mama Duck showed the way to the big barnyard where all the farm animals and birds gathered for supper. When everybody saw Mama Duck and her ducklings waddling into the yard, they stared in disbelief at the last duckling of all, the one who towered over his little brothers and sisters.
Cluck, 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 cluck. You see, my dear, I was right. It is a turkey.
No, you're wrong. It swims.
It does. Well, if it is a duckling, which I still doubt, I must say it's the ugliest duckling I've ever seen.
The poor duckling was so ashamed of the way he looked that he waddled sadly out of the barnyard and missed getting anything at all for supper that night. For the rest of the summer, he wandered by himself through the old farm and was laughed at wherever he went. Finally, it was the end of summer.
I can't stand it here any longer. Maybe somewhere on the other side of that fence, I could be happy.
So the poor duckling left the farm and went waddling down the road into the great world. He hadn't gone very far when he heard a tiny field mouse was sitting atop a toadstool and staring at the poor duckling.
I see some mighty peculiar things along this road, but you're the most peculiar yet.
And all along the road, all the wild creatures he passed laughed at the odd-looking duckling. The poor duckling was waddling slowly through a big forest when it heard the sounds of a woodcutter hard at work. And then the duckling came into a clearing and saw a cozy little cottage that looked so peaceful and inviting that he couldn't resist waddling up to the door where a yellow tomcat was sunning himself.
Meow. Who are you? Or maybe I should ask, what are you?
I'm afraid I can't answer either question. I just don't know. Oh, but my feet are tired. May I sit down and rest for just a minute?
Go right ahead. I'll close my eyes and go back to sleep so that I won't have to look at you and see how ugly you are.
In a few minutes, the woodcutter came back home with a load of wood. And stopped in amazement at the sight of the poor, tired duckling.
Well, well, what have we here? Is it supposed to be a duck?
Oh, hello, boss. Want me to chase it away now that you're home?
Not at all. Winter's coming, and it'd be very nice to have duck's eggs for breakfast once in a while, wouldn't it?
Oh, duck's eggs. That'd be delicious, boss. But I'm not sure this is a duck. And if it is, if we'd get any eggs from it.
Yeah, you may be right now that I look at it more closely. So, I'll give it 3 weeks to produce some eggs. If it succeeds, it'll be welcome to spend the winter with us. But if it fails to give us even a single egg, out it goes.
As the days went by, the weather outside grew colder, and the poor duckling had not yet produced an egg.
Tomorrow's the last day, ugly duckling. Either you give the boss an egg for breakfast or out you go into the cold.
I'm trying, Tom. Truly I am. But I'm afraid that eggs aren't my specialty.
Yeah, that's obvious. But what is your specialty?
Swimming.
Swimming?
There's nothing I like more than to swim on top of the water and then duck under and go all the way to the bottom and see the fish down there. And then swim back up to the top and bob and splash and shake my feathers. Oh, it's glorious, Tom.
Sounds crazy to me. Water.
Oh, I'm afraid that you'll just never understand me.
Why should I be bothered? You can't lay eggs, you can't chase mice or purr or curve your back like me. And you're ugly. So what good are you?
Finally, the dreaded day came without any duck eggs.
I'm sorry. Would have been different if you'd given us some eggs or been useful in some other way, but I just can't afford to keep you through the winter. Goodbye, ugly duckling. Good luck.
All the leaves had been blown off the trees as winter came closer. The woodchucks already were sleeping warmly in their cozy burrows, and the squirrels had put in a great supply of all kinds of nuts. A couple of old crows sitting on a fence laughed at the poor duckling waddling along with the cold wind ruffling his thin feathers. At last, the poor duckling came to a large lake.
Water again. Oh, even the sight of it makes my blood race, and I feel warmer. First, I'll take a good bath. Oh, in the whole world, there's nothing like water. Oh, it's glorious. I'll take a long dive all the way to the bottom. But first, I'll need a deep breath. Here goes.
There was one thing the poor duckling certainly could do well, and that was swim. Down he went, down to the bottom of the lake. Scandalizing all the fish who were sitting out the winter down there. While the poor duckling played gleefully on the bottom of the lake, a great flock of large, handsome white birds came flying out of the sunset. The beautiful birds landed gracefully on the surface of the lake. And they proceeded to bathe themselves and preen their lovely feathers. These enchanting birds were wild swans. The poor duckling grew tired of playing at the bottom of the lake and started up to the surface.
Oh, that was fun. More fun than...
He saw the flock of wild swans and thought them so beautiful that he could hardly breathe. Finally, summoning up his courage, he swam over to the handsomest bird of them all.
Who are you?
My name is Senius, and this is my flock.
Oh, I've never seen such beautiful birds.
Haven't you? Are you certain of that?
Oh, I would surely remember such a glorious sight.
Oh, it's becoming too wintry for us here. We must continue our journey to the south, to the warm sunshine.
Oh, take me with you. Oh, please, please take me with you.
We must fly thousands of miles yet, and I don't think your wings are strong enough. But you're welcome to come, little duckling, if you can.
I'll try. I'll try.
Well, if we don't see you again, be sure to stay warm this winter. Maybe we'll meet again in the spring. Goodbye.
The great swan rose majestically from the lake and his flock followed. They wheeled overhead in a wide circle, and then, rising higher into the twilight sky, they pointed southward and flew away.
Wait for me! Wait for me!
The poor duckling tried to rise into the air and follow them. He tried with all his might. But alas, his wings were still too small for his large body.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear. They were the first creatures who didn't laugh at me, and they were so beautiful. I loved them. I loved them. But now I'll never see them again.
Winter came with a vengeance. Blizzards and bitter cold. until the entire surface of the lake was frozen solid, except for one tiny patch of water which the poor duckling could keep open only by swimming continuously without once stopping.
If I stop, I'll be frozen into the lake. But I can't keep this up any longer. I'm too tired.
He was so exhausted finally that at last he fell asleep, fully expecting to be frozen into the ice. But that day a wondrous thing happened. The wind died and the sun came out stronger than it had in months. The ice began to melt and to break up. And the birds began coming back north. It was the first day of spring.
Oh, what a lovely warm day. And I didn't freeze after all. Oh, I feel ever so much better. Oh, and my wings. They've grown. Oh, they're stronger, too.
At that very moment, as he glanced up into the bright sun-filled sky, the poor duckling saw a great flock of beautiful birds flying toward him.
The wild swans. Oh, they're coming back from the south. They're going to land near me.
The poor duckling was afraid that he was too ugly for the beautiful birds to talk to him again as Senius had in the autumn. He tried to duck his head under his wing and hide. But then he heard a voice. The voice of the handsomest of the wild swans, Senius himself.
So you survived the winter after all. We're glad to see you.
You are? Glad to see me? Oh, you're very kind.
Kind? Not at all. We would like you to come with us. We would like you to be our new leader.
Me? I don't understand. Why?
Because you are the most handsome one of us that we've ever seen.
I am?
Look at your reflection in the water and see for yourself.
Oh.
The poor duckling looked down into the water and saw that it was true. During the winter he had grown so that instead of being ugly and awkward, he now was a magnificently beautiful white swan, and his heart was filled with joy. The other swans glided over and stroked him admiringly with their beaks.
I never dreamed there could be so much happiness in this world.
And then he flapped his great full wings and rose easily off the lake. The other swans followed him as he turned northward, rising higher and higher, flying joyously. Finally, he flew with the other wild swans over the old farm and saw the barnyard where all the animals and birds had laughed at him. But this time everyone looked up in admiration, and he could hear Mrs. Chickabiddy exclaiming,
Oh, look, everybody! Look at the beautiful swans! And the one who's leading them! Isn't it the most beautiful creature you've ever seen?
The great white swan flapped his wings in greeting as he remembered his unhappy days on the farm. And he knew he would never forget the lesson he had learned there. That it matters not how or where one is born. That what truly counts is what one becomes.